Trump basks in Sharm El-Sheikh glory, but the hardest test lies ahead. Netanyahu's cooperation is fragile, and far-right pressures threaten the ceasefire. Across Gaza, cranes rise amid rubble as Egypt, Turkey, Qatar, and the US race to rebuild. Dollars, influence, and logistics clash. Can Trump turn a fragile truce into lasting peace? Donald Trump stepped into the Egyptian resort of Sharm El-Sheikh on October 13th, not as a visitor, but as the self-styled peacemaker of the century. The summit hall gleamed with flags from more than 20 nations: Israel, Egypt, Qatar, Jordan, the UAE, and others, all assembled for a single reason: to witness the signing of a US-brokered ceasefire between Israel and Hamas. In a one-day whirlwind trip through Israel and Egypt, the US president unveiled what he called a deal 3,000 years in the making. Cameras flashed as Trump signed his 20-point Gaza peace framework, ending months of bloodshed between Israel and Hamas. The ceasefire, brokered through intense shuttle diplomacy involving Qatar, Egypt, and the United States, had achieved what few believed possible: the release of every Israeli hostage and a full halt to Israel's bombing campaign. Trump addressed the leaders with his trademark flair.
I met with many of the people in this room, and it all just started coming together. I've known so many of you for so long. You're friends of mine. You're great people. I have a couple I don't like in particular, but I won't tell you who.
Laughter filled the room, but beneath the theatrics lay a delicate diplomatic breakthrough. Israel's war had devastated Gaza, killed tens of thousands, and drawn mounting international outrage. For Trump, who had promised during his 2024 campaign to end the wars in Gaza and Ukraine, this was the first tangible success of his second presidency. As he proclaimed from the stage, "This is the historic dawn of a new Middle East."
So together, let us continue in the spirit of cooperation and goodwill that has finally brought us to this incredible, historic breakthrough. If we do together, we will reach the Middle East's incredible destiny, a safe and prosperous and beautiful crossroads of culture and commerce, faith in humanity, and geographic center. This will be the geographic center of the world.
Trump's speech in Jerusalem leaned heavily on his first-term legacy, the Abraham Accords, which normalized ties between Israel and several Arab nations. He vowed to expand them, hinting that even Iran could one day join what he called a community of peace. That line raised eyebrows. Only months earlier, Israel had fought a 12-day conflict with Iran, followed by US airstrikes on Iranian military sites. Yet Trump brushed off skepticism during his Knesset address. "Making peace with Iran will be easy," he said with a grin. Still, behind the scenes, diplomats warned the real test had only begun. The agreement's toughest clauses, disarming Hamas and establishing a new Gaza administration, were left vague. Trump proposed a new Board of Peace, chaired by himself and including former UK Prime Minister Tony Blair, though he publicly mused, "We'll see if everyone agrees with Tony." The celebration in Sharm El-Sheikh also carried an undercurrent of wounded pride. Days earlier, Trump had openly lobbied and failed to win the Nobel Peace Prize. Yet for one day, Trump had what he wanted most: the world stage, every camera trained on him, and a deal that carried his signature. What happens next, however, will depend less on Trump's showmanship and more on his staying power. Trump's next challenge lies in Jerusalem, with the man whose cooperation he needs most, Benjamin Netanyahu. For decades, Netanyahu has been the most enduring figure in Israeli politics, cautious, calculating, and often defiant of US pressure. Yet this month, he signed on to Trump's peace plan, reluctantly agreeing to a full ceasefire and the release of Palestinian prisoners held without trial. During his Knesset address, Trump teased Netanyahu.
Now you can be a little bit nicer, baby, because you're not at war anymore, baby.
It was light-hearted on the surface, but it revealed Trump's leverage. Unlike his predecessors, Trump is immensely popular among Israelis. That popularity gives him something rare: political muscle over Netanyahu himself. As one senior US official told Reuters,
Trump's greatest leverage is he's much more politically popular in Israel than Netanyahu, and he can either support Netanyahu's political future or sabotage it.
for now, that leverage is working. Netanyahu's far-right allies, including National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir and Finance Minister Bezalel Smotrich, have condemned the ceasefire, calling it a betrayal of Israel's security.
We are not happy with any deal that is not total surrender of Hamas. We will not accept any partial victory.
With elections looming next year, Netanyahu's political instincts may soon clash with Trump's peace ambitions. Analysts warn that if Hamas delays disarmament or refuses to cede power in Gaza, Israeli hawks will push to resume military operations, potentially wrecking the agreement. Former US Ambassador Dan Shapiro noted that one clause in Trump's plan, the possible creation of a future Palestinian state, could become explosive inside Israel.
If the political discourse turns to rejecting a Palestinian state outright, Arab nations might lose enthusiasm to pressure Hamas into compliance.
Still, for now, the ceasefire holds. Aid trucks are moving through Rafah, hostages are home, and the US has reasserted its diplomatic weight in the Middle East. Trump's next test looms in Europe, where Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is set to visit the White House this week. Trump has promised to end the war in Ukraine too. Whether that becomes another headline or another handshake remains to be seen. For the moment, though, the cameras belong to him. And the question echoing across capitals is simple. Can Donald Trump, the world's most unpredictable negotiator, finish the peace he started? As the dust settles over the ruins of Gaza, a new kind of battle has begun, not with missiles or militias, but with money, influence, and contracts. The world's biggest construction giants and regional power brokers are now circling the enclave, each hoping to carve out a stake in what is being called the most ambitious reconstruction effort in modern history. For Egypt, the moment carries both political and economic weight. Cairo, long the gatekeeper of Gaza's southern border, now finds itself at the center of the peace dividend. Egyptian cement producers and engineering firms, suffering from years of overcapacity and sluggish domestic demand, see in Gaza an opportunity to revive their industries and solidify Egypt's regional leadership. As President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi prepares to host the International Reconstruction Conference, officials in Cairo are quietly negotiating frameworks that would give Egyptian contractors priority access to early recovery projects. But Egypt is not alone. From Ankara to Doha, capitals are maneuvering for influence over Gaza's rebuilding. Turkish firms with experience from northern Syria's post-war zones are pitching turnkey housing and hospital projects. Qatar, a major donor throughout the conflict, is seeking guarantees that its existing infrastructure initiatives, power lines, desalination plants and residential blocks will be integrated into the new master plan rather than replaced. Meanwhile, Washington is positioning American corporations as key partners in large-scale infrastructure, logistics, and energy rehabilitation. Analysts say the US push is as much about geopolitical leverage as it is about commerce, ensuring that reconstruction funds translate into an enduring American presence on the ground and within Gaza's administrative framework. Yet, beneath the diplomacy and development pledges, skepticism remains. UN officials warn that without a fundamental change in Gaza's access regime, particularly Israeli control over materials and border crossings, much of the reconstruction money may never reach the ground. Environmental specialists also caution that debris clearance alone could take years, given the contamination from unexploded ordnance and hazardous waste. Meanwhile, Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro celebrated the ceasefire. He also called for the state of Palestine to be recognized by the UN and for its people to be able to elect their own government democratically.
Let Gaza be rebuilt. Let all of the West Bank be guaranteed for Palestine. Let East Jerusalem be guaranteed as the capital. And let the United Nations recognize the Palestinian state, the Palestinian Authority, and a government elected by the Palestinians themselves.
Still, optimism flickers. Regional leaders describe this as an inflection point, a chance to replace decades of siege with corridors of trade and cooperation. For the first time in years, cranes rather than rockets may dominate Gaza's skyline. But the stakes extend beyond cement and steel. The rebuilding of Gaza will test whether peace, once declared on paper, can truly be built in stone.